Good morning and welcome to Korea Today, live from Seoul.
One of the most powerful storms on record, Typhoon Haiyan, is estimated to have killed at least 10,000 people in the central Philippines. The Korean embassy is scrambling to get a hold of Koreans residing there.
Reports claim North Korea may have been involved in the Syrian civil war. More coming up in the headlines.
And in business news, a special task force is injected into Samsung Engineering. We'll explain that for you on In Print.
A car designed to combat a possible zombie apocalypse. If you're interested in what it looks like, then stay for more on Hot Clicks.
And meet the man who built a homemade satellite and launched it into orbit. Song Ho-jun becomes the first civilian to accomplish such a task. We meet the alpha geek to find out why. And you've heard of the zombie apocalypse, but the wild boar apocalypse. Reports of wild boars rampaging through the streets of the city are not all that rare anymore. What's behind these boars gone wild? On Monday, November 11th, 2013.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
Thank you for joining us here on Korea Today on this Monday morning. It's a cold morning, a mind-numbingly cold morning here in Korea. And Mother Nature is not very kind to us this morning. There are 4 weather advisories issued at this moment.
That's right. Is it just a quick cold snap? No, I would say that this is the beginning of the winter season. Temperatures have been dropping very low into the negatives. We have a cold wave advisory in Gangwon-do as well as Chungcheongbuk-do and parts of the Gyeongsang-buk-do regions. So it is a very cold one there. Wind advisories in parts of the east and west coastlines as well. This is not the day that you want to forget your jacket.
We're going to take a closer look at the weather conditions with our Ida-mi coming up later on Korea Today. But first, we'll turn to Hwang Ji-hye for a check of the stories we're following at this hour.
We start off with the headlines with the aftermath on the Philippines of Typhoon Haiyan, one of the most powerful storms ever recorded. Local officials fear 10,000 people have died and the UN estimates over 300,000 have been made homeless. At least 8 Koreans are also missing. Typhoon Haiyan destroyed most structures in its path, ripping up lampposts, flipping over cars, and sucking roofs off homes. In the worst affected areas, rescue workers are struggling. There's no clean water, no electricity, and hardly any food.
I didn't know the wind gusts would be this strong to even destroy houses. I don't know what to do now.
I'm looking for my grandmother, parents, and children. I lost them during the storm.
Haiyan, a Category 5 super typhoon, slammed into the central Philippines on Friday and is now nearing Vietnam, which is carrying out mass evacuations of its own. Recent reports have claimed that some North Korean helicopter pilots were recruited by Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to take part in the country's civil war. Arab daily Al-Quds, published in the United Kingdom, cited the former Syrian National Council leader Burhan Ghaliun, saying on his Facebook account that Assad has lost trust in Syrian Air Force pilots and instead brought in North Koreans. North Korea, a close ally of Syria, is thought to have sold military equipment, including chemical weapons and Scud missiles, to the Assad regime in the past.
We'll have to confirm whether North Korea really did take part in the Syrian civil war, but the possibility is very high, considering the military relationship between the two nations.
Experts add that if this is confirmed true, the image of the North will further be tainted in the international arena. A symbol of opposition was removed from Seoul Plaza yesterday. The so-called tent protest that went on for more than 3 months by the main opposition Democratic Party came to an end. But the opposition party pledged to expand its fight to shed light on the allegations that the nation's spy agency and the military interfered with last year's presidential election.
The president's strategy has made no headway, so we've decided to expand our front by working with religious and civic groups, as well as other opposition parties.
The ruling Saenuri Party criticized the DP, saying it's turning away from the people's livelihoods and focusing on banding opposition forces together instead.
It's sad to see. I don't think anyone will support the Democratic Party, which has once again failed to stand by itself and instead is relying on the band of opposition forces, ignoring people's needs.
Meanwhile, the Seoul city government has demanded some 18 million won or $17,000 in fines from the Democratic Party for occupying a public space without its permission. Wrapping up the headlines with some economic news, Korea's automobile industry saw production and exports hit record monthly highs last month. The trade ministry says total auto production topped 425,000 units in October, up more than 7% from a year earlier. Exports also rose 9% to more than 280,000 units. The record monthly figures came as production lines resumed following work stoppages due to the national holiday Chuseok in September and strikes by unionized workers at Hyundai Motor and Kia Motors. The ministry also noted that Korean automakers are increasingly churning out higher value-added models rather than their usual price-competitive ones.
And happy Monday, everyone. Front and center on several of our papers this morning are the heart-wrenching images out of the Philippines. As we can see here, go ahead and begin with a look at Gyeongyang Shinmun's front page. Its front page image has a shot of a scene out of Tacloban on Leyte Island, one of the hardest hit areas. The caption says that this man is taking a brief break from scouring the wreckage left in the aftermath of what's being called one of the strongest typhoons to date to make landfall. Hard to ignore the ship that was pushed ashore as well. The headline below it, meanwhile, reads, Super Typhoon Haiyan strikes the Philippines, leaving at least 10,000 dead. Now, citing the AFP, it reports that the city of Tacloban alone is estimated to have lost at least 10,000 of its 200,000 residents. And considering that many of these devastated regions are still inaccessible, that number is expected to grow. The article adds that there was a report of a Korean missionary family in the region. A staff member of the Korean embassy will be dispatched to the region today, and certainly we send our best wishes on the relief efforts. Joseonilbo also has an image of the ruins capturing one boy who has lost even his tears, according to the caption. This paper has the number of people killed or missing at 12,000, though again, that figure is likely to change as rescue efforts rev up. We'll go ahead and leave that story there for now and take a look at the headline to the side. It reads, Next Generation Stealth F-35 leads. That is, the Korean military has revised its earlier position and made this stealth feature a priority performance criteria, leaving the F-35 by U.S.'s Lockheed Martin the only candidate for Korea's next-generation fighter jet acquisition project. It also says a private contract is possible in this acquisition. And of course, there are those raising voices of concern saying that a project of this magnitude that could be valued at some $8 billion has never seen a private contract without a bidding. Others warn that the fifth-generation fighter jet hasn't completed its development, thus unforeseen changes in price and otherwise is still a possibility. And scooting over to the front page of Jungang-ilbo now, again, its front page image shows the aftermath of that natural disaster that raged at some 379 kilometers per hour. The headline to the right, meanwhile, reads 32 ex-staff of Cultural Heritage Administration employed at professional repair companies suspected of receiving special treatment. Now, Jeongwon-ye우, or the tradition of well-placed individuals receiving special treatment treatment in their retirement is a tradition that Korea is trying to do away with. Thus, 중앙일보 is paying special attention to this case that it said it confirmed through a document it retrieved from the Cultural Heritage Administration. According to the said document, from the years of 1971 through 2009, a total of 57 won a Cultural Heritage Repair Engineer license, and more than half of that, 32 people found jobs at professional repair companies, while others started their own companies. The question is whether those licenses were fair. The paper says that up to the year 2002, those who had worked for more than a decade at the administration's Preservation Technology Division received an exemption from the written examination, which was as good as a pass for the process that is based on that written exam and an interview. That exception was revised in 2003, though. All right, let's go ahead and wrap things up with a look at our business newspaper for today. Made Business newspaper captures some winds of change over at Samsung Group in its headline. It reads, some 20 Samsung Electronics innovation experts urgently deployed at crisis-stricken Samsung Engineering. The article explains that Samsung Engineering lost some 1 trillion won, or $941 billion in cumulative business in the first 3 quarters of this year alone. And to help fish Samsung Engineering out of its woes, a special quote-unquote advancement management task force headed by Samsung Electronics executive Chung Jin-dong was dispatched in the middle of last month.
Samsung Electronics has been the bread and butter for the group, and I guess the idea is to share the business know-how of Samsung Electronics with other affiliates of Samsung.
That's right. You're on to something there, Min-jung. In fact, the paper has an unnamed top-ranking executive as explaining this move at Samsung as the group transplanting its electronics arm's so-called success DNA to its engineering arm. And the article also says that Samsung Enterprise Resource Planning has already been applied to Samsung's Everland as well as Samsung C&T, and next on the list appears to be the company's financial arm. So.
I'm sure a lot of other companies want that success DNA as well, but they're not going to share that with the other companies.
Of course not, the company secret, right? All right, with that, we'll wrap your look at what's in print on this Monday, and next up are your closing numbers from Friday's Market Action.
And for those of you who are leaving the house right now, it is a very frigid morning, the coldest that we've had in this year so far.
Right, temperatures dipped to as low as minus 12 degrees Celsius in the eastern Gangwon province. Ooh.
Yeah, that's right. It is time for that jacket, everyone. And I don't think this is just a cold wave. This is basically the beginning of winter. We'll find out today's forecast with Dami joining us.
Good morning, Dami. How cold is it out there?
Good morning, everyone. Today, I'm reporting live from the heart of Seoul, Jongno-gu. And this morning, Min-jung, I am freezing right now because temperatures have dropped, or lows have dropped into the negatives. This morning, it's -1 degree Celsius, and later our highs won't be that far off at 7 degrees here in Seoul. Now, we are seeing signs of the first cold wave advisories, especially over in Gangwon-do, also Chungcheong-do and Gyeongsang-do. So you may want to bundle yourselves up wherever you are. Now, around the peninsula are storm advisories, which means that most of the nation will be seeing signs of strong winds. Here in the central regions, we are under dry advisories, so you may want to keep yourselves hydrated. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the temperatures around Korea. Daejeon's highs will rise to 9 degrees, Daegu at 11, Gangneung at 8, Busan the warmest at 13, Gwangju at 10, and Jeju at 12 degrees. Now, it looks like these cold conditions are expected to continue until Wednesday, and on Thursday, we'll expect some rain, which will bring our mercury levels up back to the average seasonal temperatures. That's all I have for the weather. I'll be back in a few moments.
Korea's largest port city of Busan played host to the first Busan International Port Conference last week, which brought together members of the shipping and maritime industries from 12 countries.
With the theme of ports adapting to change, Busan held its very first International Port Conference to address the common issues in the shipping and maritime industry and to brainstorm ideas to come up with solutions. We'll take a look.
If you could describe the city of Busan with just one word, that word could be dynamic. Like so, there are many attractions unique to Busan. Busan is Korea's largest port city. Around 75% of Korea's cargo is transported in and out of Busan, and it's a key seaport of Northeast Asia, connecting Asia, Europe, and the Americas with some 30 prominent freight ship companies in the city.
Korea's position in the global environment is a very important participator, both referring not only to exports but also to imports. So if you look at Korea today and its position in the global supply chain, it brings enormous benefits to global shipping carriers.
The world's 5th busiest seaport in terms of cargo volume held its first international port conference last week. 20 plenary figures and over 500 port leaders and figures in the seaport and shipping industry attended from 12 countries. The conference was held to identify common issues in the shipping and maritime industry and discuss possible solutions to problems encountered by the global port community.
The region we hosted the first Busan International Port Conference is to enhance the global activities in terms of port operation in Busan. So far, the Busan Port Authority and the Busan Port as well has not had sufficient global activities so far. So with this opportunity, we would like to enhance and develop global activities. And also we would like to have more chances to communicate with important ports from outside South Korea.
During the 2-day Busan International Port Conference, discussions were held under 4 main topics: the prospect of the global economy and shipping industry, bigger vessels, climate change and clean ports, and emerging opportunities in the Arctic.
You're going to meet carriers that now have increased requirements.
Currently, the international shipping and ports industry is suffering due to the slowdown from the global financial crisis. As a possible countermeasure, the shipping industry is evolving to implement bigger vessels that drastically cut fuel costs and are more eco-friendly. Another countermeasure is the Green Port Strategy. It stems from the belief that in order for the maritime shipping industry to grow, it needs to adapt to environmental regulations and build an eco-friendly foundation for business.
To give you an example, one of the things which we do, we have fairways for the ships to come in. What do you do with the dredge material? We are developing plans. In a green port, you have to develop plans to make sure that these dredgings are taken care of in a sensible and in an environmentally sound way. That's one aspect. Another aspect is air emissions. You have to think about that. Sound emissions, as a matter of fact, is something new which is coming up. And as I said, we just made the plan. This is what we're going to do, and we're now going to execute the plan. So we're not finished, we're starting. We're starting with the green ports.
Due to climate changes, a new opportunity and challenge has emerged for the future shipping industry, which is the Arctic shipping route. The route is at the center of attention as it would provide the shortest route between Europe and Asia.
In order for Busan to further develop, it needs to evolve. Previously, seaports were simply a place to load and unload cargo. However, nowadays it needs to provide a variety of services and act as a base for storage and distribution. So we need to adapt to these current trends. We predict that an Arctic route will be established by 2030, so we need to react and manage accordingly.
The Busan International Port Conference was an opportunity to share valuable information on the current status and future of the international shipping industry. It also served as a successful opportunity to enhance Busan Port's name on the global stage.
Still ahead, some people build model cars or ships, but 34-year-old Song Ho-jun decided to piece together a DIY satellite. The less than $500 device is now up in space, making Song the first private citizen to launch a satellite. We meet the Alpha Geek later on Korea Today.
Good morning, everyone. This is Chun Sung-cho, and welcome to Hot Clicks. Let's go ahead and jump right into our first story of the day. Well, last week in Las Vegas, the Specialty Equipment Market Association trade show took place. It is an annual trade event for the specialty automotive aftermarket, so you can find all kinds of cool modified cars there. What caught the attention of many online users among many extreme automotive designs is a couple of specially tuned Hyundai cars. Hyundai's Santa Fe and Veloster were redesigned into a zombie survival machine using an idea from Robert Kirkman's The Walking Dead, which is a hit television series about survivors of a zombie apocalypse. Equipped with bulletproof razor wire windows, machine guns, an automatic crossbow, knife blades, basically all kinds of weaponry you can think of, the vehicles seem capable of mowing down a horde of zombies. And hopefully, we won't ever need to use these cars in real life. Julie Bowen is an established actress who has appeared in numerous films and TV shows in the U.S. She is most recognized for the show Modern Family, which brought her 2 Emmys in 2011 and 2012 for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series. But oddly, she is rather less known here in Korea. Well, I think the single picture will make her famous right away. It was Halloween less than 2 weeks ago, and Julie Bowen was photographed with her son, and as you can see, both of them took on looks from Psy's Gangnam Style music video. And of course, a lot of people found it interesting, especially in Korea. Julie Bowen dressed from head to toe as Korea's beloved comedian Yoo Jae-suk with his signature yellow suit from the music video. And she provided the perfect counterpart to her son, who dressed as Psy. And as you can you could see from the photo, he was wearing his blue blazer, bow tie, and most importantly, a pair of cool shades. I think their hairstyles definitely put the perfect finishing touch to their outfits as well. Well, let's move on to our next story for the day. If you walk down the streets of Itaewon in Seoul, you'll easily bump into a good number of vendors selling Turkish ice cream. In Korea, Turkish ice cream is popular mostly because of the vendors' funny and unique way of selling ice cream. So, what's so unique about it? Let's take a closer look. Turkish ice cream is known for being very thick with a chewy texture. It's firmly stuck at the edge of a long stick they use to scoop out the ice cream, and with this, the vendor teases the customer by taking the ice cream away right as the customer is about to grab it, like this. Oh, that's such a tease. I'm sure these customers never could have imagined that getting a taste of Turkish ice cream could be so difficult. Not only is the ice cream delicious, but by adding this fun interaction between the consumer and the vendor, the popularity of Turkish ice cream seems to be on the rise. If you were to come across with these trick art pieces in the middle of the street, I'm sure you'd be quite amazed and confused as well. I haven't seen one in real life myself, but pictures will do for now. I'll show you some cool 3D street art that has been getting a lot of online attention. Well, this is a piece showing a construction site. It depicts a very famous cartoon character in Korea from the 1970s called Robot Taekwondo emerging from the earth. And this looks like a construction site where the floor has fallen in, and you can see it looks like people are walking in the air. And this is an advertisement for a TV drama, and it looked like the main character was coming out of the floor and about to bump into the pedestrians. But these pictures are only drawings, of course, and they're very eye-catching indeed. It'll be quite a scene there, and a lot of fun to watch the confused looks on some of the passerbys' faces at the site. Well, let's move on to our last story of the day. Do you enjoy watching home shopping networks? They are very good at making their products look very desirable. And especially when they're selling clothes, of course, they will use the tallest and best looking models so that the clothes will perfectly fit and look nice. But what would happen if a model like this appeared on live television? It actually happened at Korea's top-selling home shopping network. And as you can see, the two models have quite different looks. Even from a glance, you can tell that one is the kind of model that we're used to seeing on TV, but the other looks just like a regular person, shorter and chubbier. Not the typical looks of a professional model. What's funny is the comments sent in by the viewers simultaneously throughout the show. One viewer said that the short man with a big belly looks like her husband, and adds that she will definitely purchase a jacket since she now sees how it would look exactly on her husband. And other viewers also said that they had a better understanding of how the clothes would actually fit. And we later heard that the product actually sold very well.
You know, I actually agree with that. I think, to the left, you have what the designers wanted the clothes to look like, and to the right, this is how it's really going to look on you.
In real life, right?
All right, so what is the story behind the model exactly? Tell us about that.
Well, some say that he was just one of the staff members who was covering up for a model that was running late. But, the network released an official statement saying that he was asked to model deliberately so that the viewers can have a better understanding of the product. And, since he represents the average Korean guy, right?
Yeah,
so they're saying,
just like you, maybe.
So they're saying he's the official model, and if all models wear headsets, we have a lot of models in this studio too, right?
That's right.
What's with the headset too?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why people are all skeptical about it too. And I think the network released such a statement because they wanted the viewers to think that they had everything under control and, that it was not an accidental thing.
But if it was because the real model didn't show up, I mean, it was a very smart decision of the producer to do so, I guess.
Really
I know, he was pretty good at posing too for a person who's not a professional model, I think. Yeah, well, this is all I have for you today on Hot Clicks, and I'll see you guys back here next Monday.
Thank you, Song-cho. That ice cream move, that was so much fun to look at, right?
I took my daughter to get one of those, and he played that trick just one too many times, and after my daughter was like, I don't want it.
She ended up crying, I suppose.
That's how it can backfire on you. All right, next up, building a satellite, like out of just parts that you can get at an electronics store, and launching it into space in orbit. Now, can that be done? Now, it sounds like a plan from outer space, but there is a young Korean man who actually did this feat.
Right, you have to wonder, why didn't I think of that, right? But what's amazing about this guy, Song Ho-jun, is that he's not even a scientist. In fact, his profession has little to do with science. So why did he launch a satellite into space? We'll find out the answer in this report. Earlier this year, Korea successfully launched its first satellite into orbit. The launch of NATO-1 was a national project that cost an astronomical amount of money. During this time, there was one individual with an ambitious plan to launch another satellite. It's 34-year-old Song Ho-jun who believes that science helps make people's fantasies into reality. He was determined to launch his own satellite independently. But
But there was another reason for wanting to achieve this.
I actually wanted to bring up some questions by launching a satellite. For example, none of the satellite has been launched as by an individual yet. So I was thinking about what is going to happen when as an individual can launch a satellite. So there might be a question between individual versus institution. And also I can bring up questions about what is art and what is technology or science. And I can also bring up an issue about amateur versus professionals. So all these kind of questions were the question that I want to ask to the people. It's not about delivering messages.
Song Ho-jun majored in engineering and has a background of interning at a private satellite development company. But he wanted to live a completely different life, so when he turned 30, he decided to become a media artist. The world's first ever personal satellite was manufactured at a typical basement in Seoul. It's probably not something anyone else had given much thought to except for Song.
I think there are many people who thought about launching a satellite when they were young. Just like me, I think I also thought about it when I was little. But it's because of when they grow and then when they got socialized, maybe they don't think about it anymore. I think maybe because they have lots of things to care. For example, they have to buy their houses, they have to buy their car, they have to take care of their children's, or they have to go to the school, they have to get a job, they have to make a living basically. I think maybe that's why they don't actually do it.
People always ask him, are you an artist or are you a scientist? But to this question, he always has a different answer.
People ask me why I am becoming an artist from an engineering or science background, and I do not know. I mean, I do not know about science, I do not know about art. I don't know them at all. But thing is, I don't feel comfortable when people are trying to categorize you as oh, you're a science guy or you're an art guy. The only difference between art and science is whether it's useful or whether it's useless. In general, I think science is more about describing general phenomena of human beings, which I don't want to be in that category. That's why I don't want to be in a science field, but I want to be in an art field, because I do care more about myself.
Orbital debris is an unavoidable problem mankind faces ever since humans first launched objects into space. So there was concern that his satellite will end up being space junk as well.
Those people who keep talking about space debris are all like strong space countries. And they're trying to use that philosophy to prevent other small group of people launching a satellite or something into space, which is not a good thing. In order to talk about this, we have to be part of it. But then I was kind of worrying about that the scientists might say something to me about, hey, what you are trying to putting up into the space might be just a trash. And then I was kind of expecting that, because as an artist, I need some sort of arguments to ask questions to the general people. But then all the scientists just gave me compliments. Wow, you did a great job. And then I was a little bit disappointed because they didn't say bad things to me.
Another reason his satellite project received attention was because he made his 5 years of research and the process of how to build a personal satellite completely public. He named this satellite the OSSI, which is short for the Open Source Satellite Initiative.
Basic idea is about sharing the knowledge of launching a satellite. That includes how to get a rocket, how to make a satellite, how to build a satellite, and how to test a satellite or how to communicate with the satellite. Build a platform, website platform, so that people can come and join and talk about this satellite project and how they can improve, where they can get the cheaper components, where they can get the cheaper rockets, and etc.
On April 19th, finally his fantasy came true. His creation was attached to Russia's Beyond M1 satellite and sent to space to become a star in the sky, so to speak.
Lowering the entry barrier of a space program. That, okay, I can do that, but when people starting to call me as a something, then it's the project that only the someone can do that. But I want other people to think in a similar way.
Not to pour cold water over it, but the satellite that Song Ho-jun made is not functioning at this moment, but it's not the functionality that's important. It's the idea that it's the fact that he was able to think outside the box and do what others had only dreamed of. That's really important and inspirational to other people. So that's it. I'm going to launch my own satellite.
Well, good luck to you, but you're going to have to raise some money for that.
I'm going to need a lot of luck.
Now, that's the question. I mean, how do you make money, or how do you raise money, and how much does it cost? Well, the satellite costs less than $500 US to actually build it, right? But to launch it up into space, it's cost somewhere in the vicinity of $100,000 US to lease a space on a rocket and have it launched into orbit. Now, that is no easy task. So his original plan was to sell his OSSI t-shirts, about 10,000 of them, and raise money for it, but he only ended up selling 600. So what he did was for 5 years work different freelance jobs and actually funded his own project with his own money.
That is passion, right?
And what's left is that Song Ho-jun is trying to share the whole process, how he built the satellite, how he put it into the orbit. And in order to do that, he actually recorded the whole process on video, and that is estimated to be over 5 terabytes of data.
That is a lot of data, right?
That is a lot of data. But so if you are ambitious about your own little personal space project, you kind of have an idea of how much it's going to cost, and you also have his website to go to find out more information.
Yeah. So
by the way, welcome, Ji-hye.
Who are you?
Who are you, and what have you done to Hyungbyung?
Yes, great to be here. It's a lot of excitement going on here.
So halfway through, how is it so far?
It's very fun. A lot of information, this and there.
You're going to be with us for the next 2 weeks,
yes,
right?
I am.
All right, let's have fun.
All right, sounds good.
And speaking of fun, today is Pepero Day.
Yes, it's also a day that we celebrate 농민의, which is the agriculture day. But we also have different gifts that we do give each other, including 떡. We'll find out a little bit more about this. We'll go to Lee Dami.
Dami, tell us more about this day.
I'm back reporting live from Gwanghwamum, where the Karetak Festival, or Bar Rice Cake Festival, is taking place. Now, today is November 11th, so it's Farmers' Day here in Korea, which was designated by the Agriculture Ministry. Now, if you take today's date, write it out in numbers, it basically looks like 4 long sticks. Now, most of you might be more familiar with the other tradition on this day, which is Pepero Day. Now, as you can take a look at these snacks, they look like long sticks. So the snack food companies basically decided to take this day, turn it into Pepero Day about 10 years ago, and basically they have been more, focusing towards the teenage consumers and, of course, boosting their market sales. And this is just a side note. They actually say that the number of pepero that they sell on this day is 30% of their annual sales. So it just goes to show how steady this has become. Now, talking more about karetak, as you can see, the Agriculture Ministry took this idea and decided to promote November 11th as Farmers' Day, starting back in the year 2006, not with pepero, but with karetak. This morning, as you can see, they're sharing and giving out karetak to the people. And if you take a look at some of these packages, they're so adorably packaged. If you look at it, inside we see the long karetak. They look like thick noodles, basically, and they mean to symbolize the longing for a long and healthy life. Now, karetak is used in one of the most popular snacks in Korea, such as tteokbokki, which is rice cake with hot chili sauce, or main dishes like duck soup that is mainly eaten on Lunar New Year's. Now, you can also grill them over the fire, which is very delicious as well. So this morning, I just noticed that in the morning, in this neighborhood, there are a lot of people that pass by, are busy during their morning commutes, and probably the majority of them haven't had breakfast. So it's just good to know that they are handing these out to the people, and some of them are getting their breakfast for the day. So today is November 11th. Why not get some rice cake or karetok yourself? And give them out to your loved ones, wishing them a long and healthy life. That's all I have now. I'm Idami, Korea Today.
Well, happy Karetok Day to everyone out there as we kick things off with international football. Now, over the weekend, the big story was Son Heung-min of Germany's Bundesliga, who scored not only once, not twice, but 3 times. Now, Bayer Leverkusen, going up against his former team Hamburg SV, the Korean international, scores the first goal in the 9th minute of the match to make it 1-0. But 7 minutes later, Son Heung-min finds the back of the net once again, making it 2-0. However, with Hamburg quickly rallying back in this game, tie it up 2-2 in the 49th minute before sensation Son Heung-min pulls off the hat-trick in the 55th minute, helping Bayern take this match 5-3. With the hat-trick, Son Heung-min becomes the first Korean footballer to score a hat-trick in a professional league overseas, something even the legendary Cha Bong-gun couldn't even pull off. And back here in the nation, let's take a look at some K-League Classic results from Sunday as Jeju United beat Seongnam-ira Cheonma 1-0, Busan sneaking one past Incheon 2-1, and Jeonnam beating Daegu 1-0. So with that said, let's take a look at the big matchup here. The Pohang Steelers taking on the Suwon Samsung Blue Wings. Of course, going into the match here, it doesn't take long for the first goal to be scored as Santos in the 2nd minute finds the back of the net, and already it's 1-0 Suwon. Things not looking too good for Pohang, but that all changes in the 31st minute when Lee Myung-ju, check this out, what a mistake by the goalkeeper there, and that's the equalizer. Stays that way going into the second half of the match, but in the 74th minute, he's been red hot for Pohang. It's Ko Mu-yeol, and there it is, 2-1 Pohang. Now Pohang getting just 2 shots on goal in this entire match, but both of them finding the back of the net as Pohang takes this match 2-1. And now moving on to some Sunday's KBL action, we had 3 games that took place yesterday. Now the Seoul SK Knights were able to hang on to beat the Busan KT Sonic Boom 71-68 in a close game, and Dongbu hits their losing streak to 8 as they lost to Anyang KGC 81-78. So with that said, let's take a look at the highlights from the other game that took place. Jeonju KCC Aegis taking on Incheon Itilan Elephants. Of course, going into the game here, Ricardo Powell starting off the game strong, putting up 11 points in the first quarter as Incheon takes a 20-12 lead after the first quarter. Second quarter, Incheon continues to control the paint as they go into halftime with a huge 43-26 lead. Second half of the game, things remain the same as Incheon continues to control the paint as Chung Yeon-sang finishes off the game with 24 points and 6 boards as Incheon breezes through 86-65. And this time, moving on to some Sunday's V-League action as IBK and Hunguk Insurance Life Pink Spiders went 5 sets in the women's side, with IBK taking the game 3-2, with GS Caltex beating Korean Expressway 3-0. Now over on the men's side, Samsung Hwajae Blue Fangs beat Russian Catch 3-0. So let's take a look at a possible preview of this year's championship match in the men's league as Korean Air Jumbos took on Hyundai Capital Skywalkers. Now, tension's really high in this game with both teams going into the season as the favorites to take the title when the first set goes to the Korean Air in a tight set 26-24. But check this out. Hyundai quickly coming back to take the second set 25-21 thanks to Liberman Agamez, and the set score is 1-1. Korean Air defense looking pretty good in this match as Michael Sanchez leads the way for the Jumbos, putting up 30 attack points, including 3 aces in the game as Korean Air takes the next 2 sets, 25-23, 25-22, taking this game 3-1. And now finishing things off on the ice, if Kim Yeona is the figure queen, Lee Sang-hwa has quickly become the speed queen as the Korean speed skater set another world record in the 500-meter event. With the Speed Skating World Cup taking place in Calgary, Canada, the 24-year-old who set the world record back in January with 36.80 seconds set another record this time, cutting the time to 86.74 seconds. He continues to dominate the event since winning the gold medal during the 2010 Vancouver Winter Games. Meanwhile, over on the men's side, Lee Seung-hoon was able to finish off with a bronze medal in the 5,000-meter event, so congratulations to him. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
There has been an increased number of sightings of wild boars in recent months, including 4 just this past weekend alone. And what's alarming about these sightings is that they don't just occur in the mountains, but in urban areas in the broad daylight. And our Kim Chan-ju joins us for more on this story. Good morning.
Good morning. One of the cases that appeared during this weekend was at an elementary school in the middle of a city in Gyeonggi-do. There were fortunately no injuries, but reports of these wild boar sighting has increased to 640 cases last year, jumping 20-fold in the past 3 years. So I went out to find out the reason behind this and what can be done to solve this problem.
What would you do if one day you encountered a wild boar on the street? To some people, this is a real threat due to the recent sightings of wild boars, not only on farms but also in a hospital.
A wild boar bit my leg and kept shaking me around.
A baby wild boar can weigh up to 300 kilograms. It's like a vicious predator when it's charging at full speed, which leads to crop damages and also serious injuries. The main reason behind these random sightings is in the increased number of wild boars. The optimal number would be 1.1 boars per 100 hectares, which is equivalent to 1 boar living in the area of 100 soccer fields. But in Korea, the number has jumped by almost fourfold.
There are many areas designated as green belts and forest protection areas in Gyeonggi-do and the metropolitan area. As the number of predatory animals shrink and the conditions in wild boar habitats get better, the number of boars has increased. This has resulted in a lack of resources, so during times when it's difficult to find food, they come down to the nearby village in search of food.
In the face of continued damages, the government since 2011 has been running regional operation teams to capture the wild boars. As of now, shooting them is the main means of controlling the population. From October to November is the time when there are the greatest number of reports. This is because the wild boars need to store for the winter, which requires a lot of food.
Here you can see the traces of wild boars. These footprints must have been left today.
Last year, Korea saw damages worth 3.1 billion won, or roughly $29 million in crops from boars. This makes up for almost half the amount of crop damages nationwide.
Rice paddies are seriously damaged if 1 or 2 wild boars come down, to the extent that they have nothing to harvest afterwards. The same goes for sweet potatoes.
Many people who live near wild boar habitats cannot help but feel anxious.
When we receive reports, wild boars are usually shot dead. When their numbers increase, it's only natural that they come down to local villages. Currently, boars are captured according to the reports we receive, but this is not enough to keep the numbers down. Issuing hunting licenses during the winter season when they are most active will help control the population.
It's an unfortunate choice for the boars, but a means to protect people. And recently, more creative ways to scare off the boars are being studied. This is a famous zoo in Seoul. With the increase in wild boar damages, these animals are receiving royal treatment. They're none other than tigers. With reports that tiger feces are an effective way to ward off wild boars, zoos are being flooded with calls. Recently, a local government which was struggling with wild boar tax signed an agreement to swap damaged apples in exchange for tiger feces. A new study to reduce harm from wild boars is also drawing attention. It focuses on repelling wild boars using strong scents, which they don't like, such as chili powder and mint, that are not harmful to the animals. When the boars consume these spices, they react strongly, rubbing their bodies on the ground.
These are scents wild boars do not like, so they are rubbing themselves to get rid of the smell. Once they remember the scent, they will avoid the area.
And it's not only tiger feces, but also tiger sounds that are being used. When boars hear their predators, they immediately crawl back into hiding. This method was proven to be effective on farms.
These methods may not completely keep wild boars away, but it can be effective when combined with some methods to control the population. These plans will soon be developed to protect not only the farmers but also the animals.
So we looked at some of the government's efforts to keep them in check, but there is no fundamental solution to this problem.
That's right. As you saw on my report, shooting them to keep the population down is one of the methods available, but it is important to restrict them from invading human habitats. Now they're living in vast areas, reaching out to places that people live in. So really these two methods should be combined together and used together.
I mean, there must be other countries also struggling with similar issues. What are they doing about this issue?
Well, it seems like a wild boar rampage is not just only in Korea. So recently, a wild boar went on a rampage in the city of Prague, terrorizing pedestrians and even smashing a window at a 5-star hotel before being sedated in the Czech Republic. And also, our neighboring Japan experiences damages from a wild boar random attack. So they decided to take some measures that were worthy taking note of. Basically, the government gives aid when installing protective and purchasing high-tech animal capture equipment. So thanks to these policies, they were able to capture nearly 500,000 wild boars last year.
Well, these wild boars, being that adult, are usually over 100 kilograms. These are big. It's not easy capturing it. Now, according to reports, they have 5 to 6 per litter and 1.5 litters per year. So we're talking a very rapid population growth there. Is there any other way, such as birth control?
Well, that's a good point. Many countries are using birth control to keep the wild animal population under control, but there are some people opposing this idea that this method is an environmental pollution and also threatens protected species.
I'm just trying to imagine what I would do if I came across a wild boar. It just I would probably drop dead.
We've seen those videos when they charge at you.
But tell us about the do's and don'ts in the hopefully unlikely case of you running into a boar.
It is an interesting factor that the wild boars, they love eating fruits. So their main source of food is acorns and berries. So, but hikers tend to collect them on the mountains. So it's good that people should refrain from collecting those. And also, if you encounter them, it is a very frightening moment, but if you remain calm, you might have a good chance of escaping unhurt. And the most important thing is never to turn your back. when you
easier
encounter
said
them.
than done.
Exactly.
For sure.
So never show your back, and also try to make an eye contact if possible when you're trying to find a place to hide. And if you're hiking around the mountains, you might want to know that wild boars do not like the color red that Minjung is wearing right now.
Okay.
Right. So dressing in this color could help possible random attacks from wild boars. And also, if you happen to encounter, and if you happen to have an umbrella, try to open it, because they have weak eyesight and they think that the umbrella is a big gigantic rock, so they will probably go around it. So these are some of the things that you could probably keep yourself from safe.
I should carry umbrellas all the time I go to mountains. It's so scary.
It is scary.
The video.
Just to think of it, right?
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, thank you, Chanju, for that story.
Thank you very much. Well, all I know is if I run into a wild boar and he starts charging at me, I'm going to probably ignore everything, turn around, and run away.
Exactly. You'll forget everything that Chanju has just told us, right? All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this edition of Korea Today.
All right. Well, big welcome to Hwang Jie, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Would you like to close the show for us?
No.
Okay.
Up to you guys.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here at 7 a.m.
Thanks
tomorrow.
for watching. Bye-bye.